entrepreneurship existed, hundreds of years back.
160,000 startups is what India has.
What more needs to be done by India to make this country a startup hub in next 5 years? And we all know AI, AGI is coming. There's a lot of talk in US about AGI. Thanks for joining us today, and it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Panneerselvam, Madanagopal, Takahisa, Ohira, and Mr. Attul, Sreenath. I think he has already talked about what are the focus area of this discussion and who all are we. So I don't want to waste much time on that. But just to give a perspective that what we are trying to achieve from this session is that first of all is that in India the startup ecosystem is vibrant, and perhaps this is the right time where we are discussing about the growth of Indian startups. If I may refer to the website which Mr. Madanagopal represents, MeitY, a CEO Startup Hub. That website itself says that there are almost 30,000 plus tech startups in India, which is almost the third largest tech startup ecosystem in the world. That's a rosy picture. But why you are discussing this topic today, that when it comes to salability, sustainability, and growth of startups, what are the problems? So again, I'll refer to one news report. I think in 2004, there are a lot of startups which got closed. And out of that, 15 were prominent names, which were funded well, incubated well, and they're on the top league. But they got closed in 2024, 15. I think that number was around 13 or 14 in 2023. So it's always not the problem with funding. A lot of startups which got closed in 2024 and 23, they say that they face major two problems. One is that how to make the business model sustainable, profitable, and also balancing that fine tuning, that fine tune of growth and the pressure from the other stakeholders that to take it to the next level. Let me start with Mr. Madanagopal. He is the CEO of Startup Hub. It's a brilliant organization under the Ministry of Electronics and IT in Government of India. So he can give a perspective on what government is doing in terms of facilitating the growth of startups in India. So if I may ask you, if you can shed some light on...
PS.
Okay, PS will do. So PS can shed some light on how MeitY, as we commonly tell that ministry, Startup Hub is facilitating meaningful synergies between the startup stakeholders to ensure sellable startups with a growth trajectory.
So first of all, I think I should take this opportunity to congratulate the entire team of Convergence India. And thank you for having me here, and can't be asking for a better panel to be along with you all. So in a nutshell, I think, so what I've been propagating, those who have heard me before, probably a little bit repetitive. Entrepreneurship existed, hundreds of years back. We Indians have thrived in cross-border entrepreneurship. We have traded across the world, and we have been there and did a lot of this, spice route and silk. We know all of that. So why entrepreneurship is important in current context? Essentially three reasons. One, of course, the scale at which the market is evolving and growing. I think that's something which is very important. And the population, young population, aspiring population, educated population, without opportunities can be a big challenge, right? So if that's the reason, with almost 35 lakh engineers passing out every year, we need to create opportunities. Hence, every arm of the government has, or every arm, not only the central government but also the state government, and the entire machinery is working towards one unified objective, is to kind of how do we create employment opportunities for our youngsters. That's the first one. Second is to look at when you improve quality of life. To my mind, any technology, any business outcome has to improve the quality of life of people. Essentially, that is the second large objective. And the third one is to look at how do we create a sustainable way of doing this, because at the end of the day we have borrowed the planet from our predecessors and we need to hand it over to the next generation. So how do we do it in a more sustainable manner? Keeping these as your global objectives, almost 17 ministries in the government of India today has a startup program dedicated driving innovation, entrepreneurship and skilling. So, and we are one among them, and we are also probably one of the top 2 or top 3 ministries with a very dedicated, with a very strong program running in this perspective. So of course there's DPIIT, you would have all heard, the Department of Promotion of Internal Trade and Investments. They have Startup India. So Startup India is the custodian of all the startups in the country, and they are responsible for almost 1.6 lakh startups in the country today. And where we come in as MeitY Startup Hub, Ministry of Electronics and IT. So we kind of are the custodians of all the deep tech, electronics and tech startups in the country. Rather I say electronics, tech and deep tech startups in the country, we are responsible for them, or we want to own them, we want to be custodians of them in their growth. So our primary objective is to build, nurture and create a very strong ecosystem for electronics, tech and deep tech startups. So that is our primary agenda in Ministry of Electronics and IT in the MeitY Startup Hub. How are we doing that? In the last, I'm relatively new to this role. It's been about 4 months, 5 months I've been here, and the pivot that we have taken in the last 3 to 4 months is the 3 pillars. One is, first and foremost, this is going to be, we are a custodian of deep tech startups, so we have to invest our time and effort in building a very strong strategic deep tech outcome based startups, because end of the day tech, everybody is doing tech, right? Tech is a horizontal, right? And AI has become like that kothumir we put on the like it's a tadka. Every startup says I have a AI tadka in me, right? So we are not going to run after every such startup. Our intention is to have a very strong support system for startups which has product based outcome, who build IP, who have a strong strategic outcome to build a very strong self-reliant India, and an India which is very globally competitive. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is the entire tier 2, tier 3 cities needs to be brought into the ambit of innovation, startup ecosystem and growth of in terms of access to money and resources, other resources, including mentors and corporate programs and stuff. So the second pillar is to broad base the entire tier 2, tier 3 cities which we have. So in MeitY Startup Hub, we have taken about 65 cities, and none of them are metros or mini metros. There are 65 cities, your Warangals, your Udaipurs, your Kanoj, your Dhanbad, those are the kind of cities we have identified, and 65 such centers are now being nurtured to kind of build a very strong ecosystem in the country. The third pillar that we have pivoted towards is what we call the inclusive tech. So inclusive tech has 3 sub-pillars. Inclusive tech as, first of all, women in deep tech. It's not about women in IT, women in ITES services. It's about women in core deep tech, which is very, very important. So that's something which we are really focusing upon. The second aspect of inclusivity comes from what we call assistive tech, because in a matter of years, while we have the demographic dividend now, in another 8 to 10 years, almost 23% of Indian population will be above the age of 60, 65, 62 plus, which means assistive tech becomes an extremely critical aspect on building all of that. And assistive tech does not necessarily always equate to tech for specially able people. So even if you're using Alexa or Siri, you're already using assistive tech, right? And the third pillar is what we now is recently I added it to my thing. It's vernacular tech, because end of the day today all your tech models, tech languages can be learnt in people's, it could be learnt in a Tamil or a Telugu, or if it can be done, or at least the basics could be done in vernacular language. then we are we are creating a far more larger pool of talent and base in the thing. So right now, there is a lot of, these are the three pillars that MeitY Startup Hub is working upon. And having said that, at a government level, we have, we provide 4 M's, or rather I call it 3 M's and 1 V. So one is mentoring, market access, money, and last but not the least, which basically it's about validation, because we also kind of provide all the certification, all of that. So this is the support system that is there. Sometimes I start to feel that we are pampering our startups too much, but the question is, yes, we need to do it, but we need one for a country like India with 1.4 billion minds to innovate. 160,000 startups is not a big number, right? I repeat, 1.4 billion minds to innovate. 160,000 startups is not a large number. So we have to create a lot more entrepreneurial thinking and solution thinkers. So that's where our agenda is. Souvik.
Right. Thanks, PS. Taking cue from what you have said, you talked about those 3 pillars. One is deep tech startups, which are strategic based. Second is you're focusing on tier 2, tier 3 cities. Almost 65 cities you have identified and where you're working, and also the inclusive approach to those startups. It's not about only women, but other sections also they are coming, and how they're investing. And as you rightly said that for a 1.4 billion population, this number is too small, but for other countries that's a huge number. So I'll take a perspective from Mr. Ohira. He's representing Deloitte Tohmatsu Venture Support, and I think this organization is doing a lot of stuff in terms of facilitating and helping startups to grow. A lot of collaboration is happening between India and Japan in that sector, and his organization is helping that. So I was just speaking to him. So I'll just take a perspective from Ohira that when it comes to startups to grow, what should be the mantra to ensure growth as well as efficiency going hand in hand together? Your thoughts on that?
Okay, so first, thank you for coming here, and thank you for having here me to that. So I'm honored to join this event and as the speakers. So my name is Ohira again. So I'm from the Deloitte Tohmatsu Venture Support. So venture support means startup supporting. So my company is a startup supporting role in Deloitte. So I'm originally Japanese, but I'm now expanding to the expat to the Deloitte India. So my focus point is India startup supporting. So collaborate with Japanese large corporation and fundraising from the Japanese investors. So we are supporting the 3,000 startup for the Japanese startups, and in India. So we are operating the 2018. From 2018, so every month we do the very big pitching platform, the morning pitch Asia. We are focusing on the Series A and early stages startups. We are supporting the many startups, India and Japan also. So your question is very difficult questions, but my opinion is first point, need to the growth in advance, growth to the very polish for the many points. So one point is like a product. So how to polish for the product in advance. So before the growing, so need to polish the product. Like many market POCs, product market fit, many try and error. That's a very important point. And so HR things and the people things is also important. If in the future, if popping many people coming, but not yet ready for the strategy and the system, HR system, that's a very broken companies. So one more thing is administrators, back office, and business process need to shift to the automations. So we are supporting the many partnership with back office automation providers. That's why so many startup is focusing on the product. But weak point is many times happening the compliance and back office and HR. So in advance need to the in advance growth need to the ready for the growth stages for the many infrastructure in the company. That's all my opinion.
Short and crisp, but very important points you have said when you said that you are supporting a lot of back office automation startups, because that's one of the crucial areas, and almost 3,000 startups are being helped by your organization. We'll come to that. I'll take a Japanese perspective also. Let's have a different perspective from Attul Sreenath. He's a partner and CEO of Ideate Next, and he can give a different perspective, that maybe a perspective from the startup itself. I think it's a digital marketing GTM organization, and is working closely with other startups also in the country. So Atul, if I may ask you that, we heard the perspective from the government, from an organization like Deloitte, Ohira Venture organization. But being a startup, what are your thoughts what do you expect that startups should expect more from the government in terms of the growth and sustainability? Your thoughts on that?
Thanks, Souvik. I mean, just to start off and break down the problem from a couple of perspectives, I'll take a grassroots approach to this from a startup founder's perspective as to there's a lot happening, right? I'll just pick on a few numbers that Panneerselvam sir said. 160,000 startups is what India has. I think from that about 120 or 117 unicorns with a capital base of say 350 billion. If I have to put that in perspective, that's about 9.5% of India's GDP. For that to happen, that means India has done a really good job of it, because at a phenomenal level, if you look at say the US market, they've got about 500 startups, or 50-point-odd percentage of the entire unicorns in the world. China is probably next in number with about, I think, 300 odd something, and India is fast pacing there. Now from a government lens, that's like phenomenal, right? Like you are able to generate 0.7% of your top line base of 160. And as Paneer sir said that, 1.4 billion population, 160,000 startups, that's like a huge delta that you can get covered at the top end of it. So from a government support perspective, everything is going well. Like there is a ton of programs out there, there's a ton of mentorship availability, there's access to marketplaces, we have partnerships with the Japanese government, etc., where there are a lot of investments flowing in. So all that is great. But typically what happens is, one of the bigger problems, if I have to talk from a founder perspective, primary problem that starts off is the near term or the short term. A lot of the view that is taken or the investment that is given, by the way, we are primarily bootstrapped, so we don't have any external funding. So there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to certain KPIs, certain ways that we want to pivot. There's a lot of flexibility that comes in. But the moment there's an external capital or something that comes in, and there is a huge give and a take relationship that happens, right? There are a lot of bindings that come in. You can't operate a certain way. You can't behave a certain way. You can't take those large size bets which will give you those asymmetrical returns over a period of time. So those are the first fundamental problems from a government lens. Is there a way that the government take a long-term view on things? That's the first part. Second part is government fabulous set of programs out there. So for example, the CGT MSME scheme, they do support the founders, but the execution part of it, the actual deployment part of it is a huge challenge. Like it is going by the nationalized banks. There's not a lot of ease of availability. There's a lot of riders in it. So if I have to just give you a number perspective, right? So we have been profitable since day one, but our biggest problem is cash flow, which is the most basic problem all across the board, right? To avail a CGT MSME scheme, a founder would have to expose at a 18 to 20% in terms of interest, including the 2% AG or the guarantee, to get access to those funds. Now the founder is assuming a lot of risk, and everybody knows that startups per se is a very risky venture. 92 odd percentage of it fails along the way. You have a 10% bucket that eventually makes it to the next round, and that is what actually goes into the Series B, C, and then finally the eventual unicorn that actually creates a lot of value in the market. First ask to the government would be, is there a way that the risk can be shared in a better way? Is there a risk minimalization framework that you can run? So that's one of it. Second is the amazing programs that are there, right? The awareness of it does not happen everywhere. Like for example, at MeitY, They have about, I think, 26,000 crores worth of fund that gets deployed. They focus on deep tech startups, etc. But how many of the founders have the awareness to actually go into the government ecosystem, get through the paperwork, actually avail those benefits? And these are amazing benefits, by the way. These are not small benefits. Like, for example, I think one I've been talking to the team is the DPIT exemption, where you're able to get a lot of tax back. Now, is there a way that can be educated in such a way and the ease of execution is there? Second is from the solve for the cash flow perspective, right? A lot of the business out there. So, for example, ethanol production. If you have a business in that segment, 18% of the GST then suddenly becomes 5%. So there's a huge capture value that happens there where cash flow comes in early. You're able to sustain the short-term journey for a business and then go on to the longer term, long tail part of it. Because by then the business is formed, the foundation is there, there's cash flow, there is proof of concept, you've pivoted some 10, 15 times, figured out what exactly you need to do in life, and then you reach there. Now, if the government is able to solve for these smaller problems, right, at a grassroots level, it will be an amazing thing because the canvas is already there. It is just about ensuring are the founders getting access to the canvas in the right way. So those are my thoughts.
I think points raised by Atul makes my life easy because I think PS is the right person to address those concerns. But I think these are practical problems which he's focusing as a startup founder. That one is the perspective of long-term and short-term view by the government. Second is sharing the risk by government for startups, and obviously the cash flow problem where a lot of finances can be managed in a more efficient way. What's happening. So PS, if you can shed some light, and that will also eventually can take us to the point where you can shed some light on what more needs to be done by India to make this country a startup hub in next 5 years. And we all know AI, AGI is coming. There's a lot of talk in US about AGI. So that can be an opportunity. So if you can just mix these two questions and share your perspective on that.
Yeah, so I think Atul is right. I think there's so much more to be done, and definitely on an everyday basis we are striving to drive how we can do things better. Having said that, there are two aspects. One is that the first and foremost, it's also about the fundamentals of what you are starting up for, right? I think just a quick check. How many startup founders are there in the audience? Raise of hands, right? So interesting. So only two, right? So I don't know how to. I'll tell it for the startup founders if you can figure it out. So I think fundamentally, as a startup, you need to understand that you can only sustain a business when you have a strong customer base who's willing to pay for your solution. Okay, I think there are multiple cases that you might have come across in recent times in the past, that there are billion-dollar companies vanished out of thin air, right? So you just vanished. One day $29 billion valuation, for 6 months hence they are not there, right? So you need to be clear what you are starting up for. So which means what is the real? Are you solving a real problem, right? It can be a problem for India. It could be a problem for Bharat. It could be problems for a small village in Bharat or a town in Bharat. As long as you are solving a real problem, I think that's very, very important to understand that. The second is there someone who's willing to pay for your solution? The customer is the king, right? The customer is your best investor, right? India is one of the, after Europe also has, but India also has a large number of family businesses which are phenomenal in size, right? You have, the Birlas, the family businesses thrive on only fundamentally one thing, do business, right? End of the day, take money from the customer, right? The second, the customer is your best investor. The third aspect is the solution scalable. Because we are a nation of such a large of size, scalability becomes a very important point, right? So these are fundamental questions that the startups needs to answer before they're getting into, because you cannot thrive and grow on external capital or what I call infused capital. You have to build your own organic way of building your business. So that's something Given that in mind, not all businesses are capable of generating cash in an immediate short term. If you're a retail business, I built a retail business in Hyderabad, and I know for a fact that we didn't want external capital because customer is paying over the counter and taking the product and going. Why do I need money? Right? But there are technology, startups. There are manufacturing startups. There are startups in the most strategic defense and aerospace segment where their gestation period is much longer, right? Where they need support for at least 3-5 years for patient capital to be there, right? That's where government organizations come into play. That's where, so at MeitY, I always say consider us for a patient capital. Don't come to us for, working capital. Consider us for investment in strategic technology, R&D that will pay off 3-5 years. I am willing to hang in there with the startup for 5-7 years or even more, which a typical angel or a VC investor would not likely to be there, right? So that is the second. That is where. So yes, we are building a significant amount of corpus in terms of money in the last 9 years of Startup India existence and MeitY existence in the last 5 years. We have probably put in about 89,000 crores. I know the numbers are huge, but the truth is, how much of this is translated into R&D, into products that are global quality, global standards? The question is, how much of this is translated into intellectual property? How many patents do we have? What competitive edge we have in the global market where we are able to? So the moment you start thinking in that perspective, things will be very different, right? So my submission or my request to the startups is, look at generating working capital, cash flow from your operations. Come take government money, take grants or investments, and in terms of from the government to kind of drive the research and product development and IP. That's where you are more better off. I think those are the two things, and most importantly, we are also a little pampered because the India market is large, but Indian market also has quality challenges. When you want to go out in the global market and compete, some of our products don't stand the test of time, right? Don't stand the test of quality. So you need to think in terms of global quality, access to delivering value at a global market, and second is to also translating that into building a higher quality product for the Indian market. So some of these strategic shift needs to happen in the startup mindset, so that then we can, it will create the value entire chain. There is enough money in the market. There is absolutely no dearth of money. Believe me. The second aspect is there is fantastic mentor group, mentor set. Clarity from the startup perspective, saying what is that they really want to do, achieve, and that that's what is most important from my perspective.
I think what PS has said, first of all, I think he has answered aptly to Attul. And taking cue from what PS said, that if you're a startup, manage your initial funding from your customers or from other sources. Come to government when you have already an idea how to take your startup to the next level for maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line. That mindset you have, then government can come and help startups. And also for the startups, as PS has said, the startups also has to be very clear in their mind that what they want and how they want to solve the problem of the country. Because when PS started, I remember he said at the beginning that whether the startups can improve the quality of life. So to improve the quality of life, you have to solve the problems of common man. So whether your startup, be it a deep stake startup or a tech startup, whether they are trying to do that, and also whether it is competitive globally also. I think if a startup can think on those lines, that will help solving a lot of problems. And as you have said, that a lot of startups got vanished in thin air. I started my speech by saying that out of many startups, I can say prominently 15 big startups who had got huge valuation, huge funding, they're just finished. So that also brings to the question that what PS was referring to, that. So I think that there's always a thin line between that, how much funding we got, how much valuation we got, but at the same time, do I have a startup, my business plan there intact to grow to the next level? that is also important. When you talk about sustainability, I think Mr. Ohira can shed some light on how to make startups sustainable. And you're free to give examples from Japan also. Because there's a knowledge sharing platform, we can all learn from the best practices of Japan and India, both the countries. So please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I provide the two aspects. So especially the Japanese companies is a very long journey. Many company having the many long journeys. So for example, in Japanese companies, 100 years old over company is a 30,000 company in Japan. Very, very long journeys. 100 over growing up or stable, and so continue to do the business is very, very difficult. So startup founder is already understanding the very situation is changing and the market is changing. Many things are changing. But in Japan, having the 30,000 over companies in the over 100 years old companies. So that's why. So they provide many like a pivot. So and target customer changing and the very small improvement. So continue to the improvement things. So that's a very good hint and good insight for the overseas startups. How to improvement, how to continue, how to sustainabilities do that. And the second point is I told to the Japanese startup and the Indian startup also need to the how to secure the market. So India is a very great market just now and a very emerging and the population is a world #1, right? So very big market. But so overseas having the many markets. So I would like to take the survey from the audience. So have you go to the UAE? Have you go to the UAE people? Not yet. Okay. Have you go to the Singapore? Okay, Singapore more. Have you go to the Japan, Tokyo? Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. So I
Bring smile to his face. Japan, huh?
Japan, yeah. So I met in Japan. Yeah. We met in Japan. So yeah, I would like to say the many Indian people, very similar to the Singapore and the UAE. And so if your company is expanding to the first step for the Singapore, Southeast Asia market, or UAE, Middle East. But so please quick research, and please connect with Japan market also. I would like to suggest that. That's why, so Japan is a fourth big market in the world. So of course, market is declining slowly, but still very big markets. So I'm happy to contribute. If you would like to the Japan market, if you would like to know the Japanese market or Japanese customers and the Japanese partnerships, I would like to contribute to that point. Please let me know. So please expanding to the market forecast in your companies. That are my two aspects.
So I think what you are trying to say is that know Japan more and interact more with Japan in terms of the growth of startups in India through collaboration with your country. That's what you're trying to say. I'll quickly take a perspective from Attul, and maybe we are at the end of this panel discussion. So Attul, being part of the startup ecosystem, where do you see 5 years down the line Indian startup growth story heading towards? Your thoughts on that?
So I was in UAE operating for almost 7 years. And I was sold the growth journey for India, that it is important to come back to India. So that's one of the main reasons why I started this business, I think about 3 years back. Just to give you a perspective on India's growth story, India's GDP is 3.7 trillion. China is at 16 trillion today. So even if you do 100% suboptimal growth, you're still doubling the economy. So that's the kind of opportunity available there. From a value creation perspective, the right bets are being made in the right spaces, be it deep tech, agri-tech, the semiconductor space, defense technologies, etc. So a lot of the money is going in all the right places. From a asymmetrical return perspective, considering the top base of the startups, 160, continuously adding on top, more people getting motivated to come in. And Panisa, just to answer the question from a founder perspective, from every individual's perspective, I've been able to put them in 3 buckets. What is their aspiration? They either want to solve a large enough problem, which is ambition. They either want to create large enough wealth in terms of outsized returns, which they can't get probably working in the corporate segment or anywhere else, or they want freedom. These are 3 buckets primarily a founder falls into. Then also what happens is they get motivated along the way that yes, I'm solving for a very large problem, which is very dear to my heart. So that then gives them the right to win in that particular segment. So that gives them the clarity. Once that clarity comes in, the product automatically starts forming shape. And that's where the conviction comes in, saying, okay, I'm going to see through the pain, break through the wall, and just go beyond. That is happening in India. And what will happen is, the startups that finally go and break the wall and beyond will just create so much value and so much employment out there. It's going to be a phenomenal journey. So that's where I see it personally from my point of view.
So conviction of idea, that's what you're basically saying. And I think we've come to the end, but I'll quickly take a perspective from PS. PS, we can wrap up with your thoughts. You want to add something?
I think that's very true. At the end of the day, we need to kind of segment. So we need to look at. So in my journey in the last about 8-9 years in the ecosystem, I have 3 things. We have a what you call self-employed mindset. We have a businessman mindset, and we have a entrepreneur mindset. Okay, there are 3 different things. Okay, more often than not, we take a self-employed mindset and push him to be an entrepreneur. We take a businessman mindset to push him to be an entrepreneur. Self-employed is about, okay, I have 10-15 people, I am making $1.5 lakh, I am happy. That's where the businessman is today, this train is running fast, I will make money on this train. Tomorrow the other train will run fast, I will make money on that train. The entrepreneur is about solving problem. Solving problem with deferred gratification, no sleep, no water, no food, no bath. I'll wait till another 3-4 years to solve this problem and make it big, and that's the mindset. So all 3 mindsets are important for India and very, very relevant for India. The question is, which one is going to be scaled, which one is going to be pushed? That's where we are looking at. So we are looking to back the entrepreneur mindset, solving problems for the country, and we have multiple things. So I just wanted to share 3-4 things. One is India AI mission is inviting startups to be part of their AI program. We have huge opportunity there. The cybersecurity mission from MeitY is launched a cybersecurity challenge where the prize money is up to 6.5 crores. It's purely a grant. Friends in cybersecurity, please spread the message. And then there is my own program, which is called the Samrid program for co-investments in startup. So again, up to 40 lakhs we co-invest. So please look up our website and you can apply for this co-investment. So as I said, there's a lot of things happening. As an entrepreneur, you cannot run after every rabbit you see. You need to let go some of them. You need to say no to a few of them or most of them. Then you will be in a much better position to build your organization more meaningfully. Thank you.
PS, but now I'll tell his full name again. Panneerselvam Madanagopal, CEO of Startup Hub of MeitY Government of India. Mr. Takahisa Ohira, Head of Asian Region, Deloitte Tohmatsu Venture Support, and Attul Sreenath, Partner and CEO Ideate Next. The topic of the session was calibrating the startup story, Saleable, Scalable and Sustainable. And I think if I have to summarize the session, I think the mantra should be that if you are an entrepreneur or startup, try of thinking problem of for greater good. If you have that conviction, you make a startup. It can be deep tech startup, any kind of tech startup. If your vision, if your startup has a solution of solving problems for thousands of people, your business model will become sustainable, sellable, and also go to the next level, and you will all not have the problem of funding also. I think that is more important, that Our starters have to come with the solution which will do larger good for the people, which will take Indian startup story to the next level in the next 5-10 years. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank
Over to
you.
ma'am.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's put our hands together. As I request a moderator, Mr. Souvik Goswami, to kindly do the honors of presenting a token of gratitude to our eminent panelists. We present to Shri Panneerselvam Madanagopal. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for sparing your valuable time and gracing this occasion. We present to Mr. Takahisa Ohira. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us here. And to Mr. Attul Sreenath. Thank you, sir. I would invite Ms. Sakshi Chawla from Exhibitions India to kindly come up and do the honors of presenting a token of gratitude to our moderator, Mr. Souvik Goswami.